Wow, what a year. This is everything I read in 2024, and I am so proud. This is the most books I've read in a single year in my entire life. And even though I didn't have as many five stars as I wanted, I'm still very proud of the amount of books I got through this year. I have here what I read in previous years. So it looks like in 2019, I read 28 books. So going from 28 books to 57 books is a big jump. And I am excited to jump into the stats of everything and also talk about my favorites. If you don't care about the stats and just want to jump to the favorites, I will mark out the different sections of the video, so if you do want to jump around, you can. Alrighty, let's start off with pages read. The least amount of pages I had was in June with 312, and the most pages read was in October with 2,766 pages read. So that gives a total of 18,366 pages for the year. And I started off with all-time pages read of 60,976 pages, and adding that 18,000 from this year puts us at 79,342 pages read in my lifetime, which is a lot of pages. So that is really cool. So I have my handy dandy iPad here with all of my pictures of the different stats. So we're just going to go through them together. So January, I had 4 books with an average of 3.25 rating. February, I had 2 books with 3.5 average rating. Then we had March with 3 books, 4 average rating. April had 5 books with a 4 average rating. May had 5 books with a 3 average rating. June had 2 with a 3 average rating. July had 6 books with a 3.33 average rating. August had 5 books as well with 3.83 average rating. September had 4 books with a 3.5 average rating. October had 7 books with a 3.86 average rating. November also had 7 books with 3.29. And last but not least, December had 5 books with a 3.25 average rating. So then I moved them into the different star ratings. So we had 3 books in the 2-star rating, 1 book with a 2.5 star rating, a whole lot of 3 stars, 3 books with a 3.5 star rating, a bunch of 4 stars, which is always good to see. Last, we had 5 books with a 5-star rating. So that leaves us with a 3.5 average rating for all of the books that we've read this year. And I'm hoping, because that seems pretty low, so I'm hoping next year we can get that closer to a 4-star average rating for all the books, but we'll see. The next way I organized the books was more based on vibes. It was either liked, didn't like, or loved. So here's my didn't like pile. There's some ones in there I've got some passionate feelings about, but go see my wrap ups if you want to see what I thought. Then we had a good stack of just liked. These are just your average, everyday, kind of reads, nothing crazy about them, but I definitely didn't hate them. And then we got my loved pile. So this is everything that I really enjoyed. And even though some of these or most of these I didn't give 5 stars to, they were definitely a very good time. I also had 2 books that I reread this year. We had Milk and Honey, which is a poetry collection, and A Dawn of Onyx by Kate Golden, which, if you know, I read back to back. I read it the first time. I couldn't stop thinking about it, so I reread it again. And it was a 5-star for me. Then I jumped into authors. So the author we read the most books from was Martha Wells with 7 books. I read the entire All Systems Red series. This is a sci-fi series about an AI robot. It was a great time. They're novellas, they're very short. Then we had Sarah J. Maas with 5 books. I read the entire A Court of Thorns and Roses series. I definitely didn't love it as much as all the other girlies love them, but I did start to fall in love with the series as I got closer to the end of it. So I am excited for, hopefully she puts out the new one in 2025. I don't see that happening. I bet you it's going to be like 2026 or 2027. But then we had 4 authors that I read 3 books from. So I read from Ben Oliver, the Loop series. Colleen Hoover, I read It Ends With Us duology, plus I read Verity. Then Kate Golden, I read the entire A Dawn of Onyx series, which is just the 3 books. And then Ruby Kaur, I read the 3 books in her poetry collection. And then last, I had a couple authors who I read 2 books from. So R.H. Sin, Tahereh Mafi, H.D. Carlton, Morgan Bridges, Natasha Preston, and from the Avatar series. So those are all the authors I have read more than just 1 book from. Speaking of authors, I had quite a few books that are from new authors. And as you can see, there's a lot of series in here, like The Court of Thorns and Roses. This was my first Sarah J. Maas book, and I have obviously continued in the series for that. Same with Ben Oliver, Colleen Hoover, a bunch of other ones, Emily Henry, Ali Hazelwood. I definitely plan to continue on with those authors in the future. And then here are all of the books that I have read from those authors before. So this is the continuation of a lot of those series and finishing up series from prior years. Next up, I organized by page count. So we had our less than 250 pages. These are our shorter books, and we had quite a few of those. Then we had more of the mid-length books, 250 to 400 pages. We had a good stack of that. And our 400-page books, we had quite a few of those. So I think we had a good stack for each of those. After that, we split it up between books I physically read versus audiobooks. So we definitely had more audiobooks than physically read. I am an audiobook girly. If you're not a big audiobook person, don't talk to me. I'm just kidding. Yeah, most of my books are audiobooks. I love listening to audiobooks in the car. I also drive for my work, so that's a lot of time that I spend on audiobooks. I like listening to audiobooks while I do chores. I've said this all before. Most of the physical read is my poetry, graphic novels, and usually dark romance is not something you find audiobooks with a lot. But I still feel like the physical books that I've read is a pretty big stack. I was actually expecting that to not be as much, but yeah, I'm proud of myself for that one. Go me, reading. Next up, which I thought was so interesting, is dividing it up by genre. So I had 4 romance, 1 general fiction, 3 graphic novels, 2 nonfiction, 10 poetry, 10 science fiction, 3 psychological thrillers, 8 dark romance, 14 fantasy, which is always going to be my highest genre. The fantasy is my favorite, so that is definitely not shocking at all. After all of that, we got our series versus standalones. So standalones, we got a pretty big stack. Then I've divided up my series by some different categories. So we got all of the series that I completed this year, which I am definitely very proud of myself for finishing out a lot of series. I have noticed that in the past, if I don't commit to working on my series all the time, I will end up just having them sit on my shelf. And then next thing I know, I've forgotten everything. And then I don't enjoy the series, or I end up just never reading it. And so last year and coming up into 2025, I definitely plan to keep going with those so I don't forget details and I have my best chance at enjoying the entire series. So those are all of my completed series. And then I have a small stack of series I will not be continuing in. So we've got Zeros and Beautiful Villain. So Zeros, I did try the second one and I got like 100 pages in and I just wasn't feeling it. So I just DNF'd and decided I'm not going to continue. Beautiful Villain, I thought about continuing, but the writing wasn't the best, and now that I'm like thinking back on it, I barely remember some of the details, and I just don't really care about our characters, so I'm gonna not continue in that one either. Then we've got series I might continue. So we got Promises and Pomegranates by Savar Miller. This one was good, but the series isn't about our two main characters in this book. It's like a interconnected series. So the next few books, some of them intrigue me, some of them not so much, and so I'm debating on it. Maybe if I see it in a bookstore, I might grab it, but I'm not going to go out of my way to go find the book. And then we have Dark. This is a dark romance, and I did enjoy the first one. I didn't really see myself picking up the rest of the series, but as I've thought back at it, now I kind of want to, so that might be something I pick up in the future if I see it in a bookstore, but maybe it just kind of gets forgotten about. Who knows? We'll see. I'm very open. And last is my series I will continue in. So we got the Shatter Me series. I definitely plan to continue reading in those. Are Every Heart a Doorway by Shauna McGuire. I definitely plan to continue with that. She does have her, I think that's the 10th book in the series coming out this year. So, which I already have and I plan to start soon. Pillow Thoughts by Courtney Peppernell. This one might be better and the might continue. I didn't even realize that this was a series, so but now that I do, I probably will, but I don't know. I don't even know what the second one is called, so we'll see. Of course, Sarah J. Maas with Court of Thorns and Roses. We did say this. If it does come out with another one, I will read it. And then we got Rebecca Yarros, obviously Fourth Wing. Onyx Storm just came out. I am probably like 20% of the way through, so I do need to keep going and hopefully finish that up here in February. Then we have our Teen Titans graphic novels. You guys know I love Teen Titans. I'm of course going to continue in the graphic novel series. Same with Avatar. I love the cartoon and I plan to keep going. So easy peasy. And that's it. That's what we have for our 2024 stats. Super fun, super easy, and I think we should jump over to our favorites. Okay, here are my favorites of the year. I have a top three. So the first one goes to none other than A Dawn of Onyx by Kate Golden. Any book that makes me reread an entire book in not only back-to-back days, it deserves the top spot because I have never reread a book, especially that quickly, ever before. But I absolutely fell in love with this book. I can't recommend it enough for fantasy romance readers. This book follows our main character, Arwen, and she has the ability to heal with her magical abilities, and it also deals with a lot of other magic in the world. We have creatures like dragons and griffins and massive lizards, and it's just such a good time. We've got enemies to lovers, we have found family. It's such a good time, and I just ate it up. I read it so quickly. I read it in 2 days, and then I couldn't stop thinking about it. So then the next 2 days, I reread it again. The ending of this is so emotional. Kate Golden did such an amazing job writing the end scene of this. I think about it all the time. I have this song that I also listen to in that last emotional, like, craziness of this book, and every time I listen to that song I just think of this book, and it's just it's so good. Please go read this. I can't recommend it enough. Next up, as my number two slot, is A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. I did not expect this to be one of my favorite books. I am just like anyone else. I did not like Nesta's character because she was just, a terrible person. But following her journey in this was just so good. Like, I just didn't expect myself to love this book. I mean, this book is almost 800 pages, and any book that keeps you entertained for 800 pages, it didn't drag at all. I loved every minute of this. Everything that we did in this book, I felt was meant to be there. I can't give away a lot of details on some of the stuff that happens in here because I don't want to spoil the rest of the series. I also gave A Court of Wings and Ruin 5 stars, but this one definitely tops that one for me personally. I just love the progression of Nesta and her storyline and just kind of getting her life back together, also falling in love, finding like her girl group and found family, and her working to get stronger and be a better person, and her doing the progression of the stairs and her trying to make her way all the way down and up, and it was just so good. It makes I think about this book way more than I think about any other ones. I know people love A Court of Mist and Fury. I Everyone loves that one. They're like, I want to read that one over and over. I almost DNF'd that one. Like, I don't get me wrong, Reese is great, but like I don't know. I really fell in love with our two main characters in this, and I just felt it was such a good time. I didn't want to put it down. I loved the progression of her storyline and her character development, and I didn't expect that. I love this book. It makes me want to reread it just talking about it. I loved the love story in this. The spice in this was great. The romance was great. The friendships that she had in here were so good. And the potential side stories of love stories that you're rooting for side characters and their love story. And if you also struggled with A Court of Thorns and Roses and the first two, keep going, because once you get to the middle one, you're going to be so happy, because that was me. The first two, I was like, what is everyone so hype about? Like, what's the big deal of these two books? I wasn't a huge fan, but then I got to the third one, and then I just flew through the rest of them, and I'm so glad I did, because this one is just, it's a good one. I would say even The Dawn of Onyx and this, they pretty much are kind of tied for the top of the totem pole. The only reason I put A Dawn of Onyx above this one is because I read it twice. I love them both. Just read them both. And last but not least, in my third spot, I have Check and Mate by Ali Hazelwood. And I know what you're thinking, Megan, you didn't give that 5 stars. How is it your favorite? Well, I gave it 4 stars, and because I make up the rules, it's going in my favorites. And maybe looking back, I should have probably just given it a 5 star because I really, really liked it. This follows our two main characters. Our main character, Mallory, is getting back into the chess world, and she is going around to tournaments and doing a lot of things surrounding chess, which I also like to play chess. I don't play it as much as I would hope to, but I do love it. It was very rom-com, love story. You're rooting for the main characters. You know that they're going to fall in love at the end, but it also surrounded something that I also enjoy playing. I'm a big game person. I love board games, so this was just really for me. It was a quick read. I really should have given it a 5 star. Will I go back and change my Goodreads? Probably not. In my heart, it's a 5 star because I keep thinking about it. Every time I'm like, oh, I look at this stack of books and I'm like, which ones stand out to me? And this one pops up for me. And if you like just simple romance stories, good palate cleansers, just an easy read, you're rooting for the main characters and they just have a good time until they fall in love, this is it for you. So, highly recommend. And I figured since I can't stop thinking about it, and I didn't really feel like my other 5 stars kind of stuck in my mind as much as this one did, I had to put it in here. So there it is. Those are my top three books of 2024. I am so happy with everything I read. I had a great time this year. I hope you guys had a great 2024 reading year. Please comment down below your top three reads or just give me a list of all your favorites and I would love to read through them. I hope that we have a great 2025. I can't wait to do this again next year. If there's any stats that you're curious about that I should include in next year's, feel free to comment down below and I will be sure to come back and look at this video later on in life. But again, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a good one. Bye!